Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the podcast. Yet another episode of Crushing Fantasy Football. I am Bryce Lockridge, your host of the show, guys. Today, I'm going to be giving you my updated top 12 PPR rankings, and I am going to get right into it with the first player on my list, and that is Jonathan Taylor. Now, this is a guy who is going to get a ridiculous amount of volume and an improved Colts offense. I mean, look, they picked up Matt Ryan. This is awesome for Jonathan Taylor. The overall efficiency of this offense should be even better. We've got a third-year Michael Pittman Jr., this offense is going to be darn good. And if Jonathan Taylor had a ridiculous ceiling last year, which he obviously did, he was the best running back in fantasy, his ceiling is even higher this year. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's going to get 20-plus carries a game. He's going to see probably 5 or so targets on average out of the backfield, so he's going to receive healthy amount of passing work. He's going to get good goal line usage. And this is a team who is going to score a ridiculous amount of points. I mean, if this was a top 8 NFL offense, I wouldn't be surprised. And Jonathan Taylor has some of the best big play ability of any running back in the entire NFL, as we know. So he is the easy number one player off the board for me. Next player on my list is going to be Justin Jefferson. Now, obviously, this is way higher than, or at least a little bit higher than people are going to have Justin Jefferson. Look, this is a guy who is part of an offense that is led by a run-heavy attack. I mean, the Vikings love to pound the rock with Dalvin Cook. And they're going to continue to give Dalvin Cook 25-plus touches a game until he gets hurt every season like they always do. And even when he gets hurt, which he will, Alexander Mattison is going to come in and absolutely dominate in the run game because that's just what the Vikings do. They have a very successful running attack. And this sets up awesome play-action opportunities for Justin Jefferson to absolutely feast downfield. Teams are game planning to stop the run. And then you run a play-action play, and you have a 70-yard bomb to Justin Jefferson. That's just kind of what happens. This is a guy who has some of the best big play ability of any wide receiver in the entire NFL, and he's going to receive 10-plus targets a game. He averaged 9.7 targets a game last year, and home run hitting wide receivers like this don't usually get 10-plus targets a game. That's kind of a new phenomenon in the NFL. He is the new age wide receiver that can dominate in every way, shape, and form in the game. He can beat you underneath. He can beat you downfield. He's an incredible route runner, great hands, great talent. He has absolutely no flaws as far as his talent as a wide receiver, and he's in the perfect offensive opportunity that is going to feed him a ridiculous amount of volume. I love Justin Jefferson. Next player on my list is going to be CMC. Now, I've been bashing CMC all offseason because, well, the last 2 seasons he missed like almost the entire year. So it's hard to draft him because I don't really like taking risks in the first round, but the ceiling here is just so freaking high for Christian McCaffrey. This is a guy who has the highest ceiling in fantasy at any position, as we know. Now, obviously, they're going to cut back on his workload a little bit. He's probably going to only receive about 80% of the workload that he used to get, before he had, back-to-back season-ending injuries. But even with 80% of that volume, he still has the highest ceiling in fantasy. That's how freaking high this guy's ceiling is. He is one of the most talented running backs in the NFL. I actually like Baker Mayfield being the quarterback because they're going to want to check down to Christian McCaffrey more often than not, because I don't think they're necessarily going to trust Baker to sling the rock all over the field. So that means lots of check downs to Christian McCaffrey like usual. And this is a guy who we know can average something crazy like 5.7 yards a carry from a season-long standpoint. So I can't pass up on the ceiling. He's my number 3. Number 4 on my list is going to be Joe Mixon. Guys, this is the most bust-proof player in all of fantasy football. He is now part of an offense that has a significantly improved offensive line. He's played his entire career with the Bengals with a bad offensive line. Now he has a really good offensive line, and we're going to see just how talented this guy is. This is a guy who's one of the most talented running backs in the entire NFL. This year we're going to see it. The touchdown numbers and potential are ridiculously high because this could be hands down the highest scoring offense in the NFL. I love the floor ceiling combination for Joe Mixon. He's almost completely bust proof, and the ceiling is number 1 running back in all of fantasy football. Number 5 on my list is going to be Cooper Kupp. Now, this is a guy who put up the best wide receiver season we've ever seen last year. He could beat you in any part of the field. He could beat you downfield. He could beat you underneath. He's going to line up out of the slot, dominate over the middle of the field like he always does. He's got a great deep ball thrower in Matt Stafford for his huge chunk plays. Obviously, they picked up Allen Robinson. That's going to help take some defensive attention off of Cooper Kupp. This is very, very good. Cooper Kupp is going to be completely and utterly unstoppable. Again, don't worry about the fact that he's a little bit older. This is a guy who still has tons of talent. And despite not having top-end speed, has sneaky, awesome big play ability. He is absolutely lethal with the ball in his hands, and he has some of the best run after catch abilities in the entire NFL, which blows my mind because he doesn't look like the most athletic guy when he moves, but this dude is just an incredible football player, and he's my number 5. Number 6 on my list is going to be Austin Ekeler. This is a guy who is due for some touchdown regression, but he's part of what's going to be one of the highest scoring offenses in the NFL. He's a great dual threat running back. We know he's a lock for 20-plus touches a week when you factor his carries plus his, overall targets out of the backfield. He is an awesome PPR monster because he catches so many freaking passes and is just such a phenomenal athlete. The touchdown upside is also ridiculously high. So draft Austin Ekeler if you want to win your fantasy league. Next player on my list is going to be Saquon. This is obviously way higher than anyone's going to have Saquon. But look, he's 2 years removed from his major injury. He is now playing behind by far the best offensive line in his career. Think this guy has still averaged like 4.7 yards per carry in his career, despite having certain years where he was a complete bust due to his team sucking. So imagine how efficient he could be from his yards per carry standpoint when he actually has some blocking. This dude will, mark my words, average more than 5 yards a carry more than 5 yards per carry this year in this offense. And that is a bold thing to predict, but I know that with some blocking, Saquon is going to be one of the most efficient running backs in the NFL, and the touchdown upside is going to be higher than it has been in the past because it's an improved offense. Next player on my list that I have is going to be Aaron Jones. Now, this is way higher than anyone's going to have Aaron Jones in their rankings, but what people fail to understand is that without Davante Adams in the lineup, Aaron Jones has some of the highest upside in the entire league. In his Packers career, in the games where Davante Adams didn't play, he was by far and away the best running back in all of fantasy football, averaged over 25 PPR points per game when Davante Adams didn't play, and was the running back one in fantasy by a long shot. So now that Davante Adams is not in Green Bay to take away Aaron Jones's red zone usage, and Aaron Jones is going to score more touchdowns, he is going to have plenty of games where he actually sees 10-plus targets out of the backfield. Last year, the one game where Davante Adams didn't play was the one game where Aaron Jones saw 10-plus targets out of the backfield. He had 11 targets against the Arizona Cardinals. He's going to have a lot of these games now that Davante Adams is gone. His PPR upside is through the roof, and he should be one of the top 10 players off the board. Next player that I have on my list is going to be Stefon Diggs. Now, Stefon Diggs is due for serious touchdown regression in a positive way. This is a guy who should have scored a lot more touchdowns last year, but Dawson Knox took away a lot of his touchdowns. Other players took away a lot of his touchdowns, but this guy is due for some serious touchdown regression. We know that he has the potential, being in this Buffalo Bills offense, to lead the league in overall yardage. So the touchdown numbers are going to be up. The yardage numbers are going to be up. This guy is going to bounce back in a significant way. And if he was the number one wide receiver in fantasy football this year, I would not at all be surprised. He should be a top 10 player off the board. It's Stefon freaking Diggs in the Buffalo Bills offense. Next player that I have on my list is going to be Alvin Kamara. Now, Alvin Kamara saw 200-plus carries last year. He's finally seeing games where he gets 20-plus carries in a game, and he still has just as high a PPR upside because he still sees a lot of targets out of the backfield. With Jameis Winston starting for this team, there will be a decent amount of checkdowns to Alvin Kamara. He's going to dominate in the passing game. He is going to get more rushing volume than he has, as we saw last season. His touchdown upside is ridiculously high because I think that this is going to be a really sneaky good NFL offense. I love Alvin Kamara this year. We obviously have to monitor the off-the-field issues and everything like that, but when this guy's on the field, he's completely unstoppable. Next player that I have on my list is going to be JaMarr Chase at number 11 here. And guys, JaMarr Chase, wow. What a rookie season. I mean, this guy just came out and absolutely lit the league on fire. We know that he has the highest weekly ceiling of any wide receiver in fantasy football. He's kind of the new Tyreek Hill in that regard. And Joe Burrow slinging the rock to JaMarr Chase is something I'm always going to trust. They have a very good connection. I love JaMarr Chase's big playability. I love his weekly ceiling. I think that the touchdown numbers can be a little bit volatile in this offense because there's just so many mouths to feed. So, rely on him to score a lot of touchdowns. It's going to be kind of hit or miss, but we know that the yardage numbers are going to be through the roof, and he is probably going to be even targeted more this coming year than he was last year. So an increased target share in a super dynamic offense could only mean good things for JaMarr Chase. I have him at my number 11. My next player on my list, final player I have here, my number 12, is going to be Davante Adams. I love him in the Raiders offense because, this is a loaded offense with Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, Derek Carr slinging the rock. Davante Adams is going to dominate in fantasy football like he always does. He's probably going to be a top 10 red zone target like he is every single year. This is a guy who was a top 10 red zone target 5 seasons in a row. He is the only wide receiver that fits that exact statistic. And so the red zone targets are going to be there. The scoring opportunities are going to be there. The big playability is there. He's one of the most talented wide receivers in the entire NFL. And so I got to have him being taken at the number 12. So I hope this video helped, guys. These are my top 12 PPR rankings for the season. And I appreciate you tuning into the video, and I will catch you later.